Hello everyone, my name is Dominic Demore, and thank you for tuning in to the second best thing you will hear all week. We have a great show for you today that includes top-notch film reviews along with the box office battle. This is the I've Had Better podcast. Let's kick it off. James, what do we have first for the fans this week?
Hello everyone, my name is James Likas and welcome to the show. Each week, Dom and I will give you the fans a review of a film currently in theaters, or in the rare occurrence we can't afford to go to the movies that week, we will dig deep in our film libraries to break down an old great, or just a random piece of garbage. This week's review is Captain America, Civil War.
Yeah, the Marvel Disney behemoth that everybody was expecting would dominate the box office, and it certainly did. Some of us here sitting at the table were extremely disappointed in the fact that it blew Batman vs. Superman so far out of the water.
Yeah, big time.
But also, it was totally to be expected. Every trailer you saw leading up to it, all the news you heard, everybody involved with it, you're just like, all right, these guys know what they're doing. They're going to knock it out of the park.
Yeah, Marvel's just done such a better job than DC, almost in every aspect. It's a little embarrassing for DC. They need to step their game up.
Yeah, I mean, but it is early for DC. You have to remember that fact. Like, they did it in reverse order, essentially, by going a little bit more of that group shot first. Maybe it was a risk that isn't going to pay off. Maybe down the line they'll do better. But clearly Marvel has a strong foothold and they know what the audience wants.
Yeah.
So basically how we'll run this down, we'll give a brief synopsis of the film, then talk about some of the things that we liked, some of the things we didn't like, and then we'll go ahead and give our rating for the film. But we also want to hear your rating. So why don't you guys send us a tweet, or you can just post on our Facebook wall saying what your rating out of 10 would be for this film. That's at IHB Podcast or the I've Had Better Podcast page.
And just so everyone knows, this is going to be very spoiler heavy.
Yes.
So if you haven't seen it, you might want to stop listening.
That is a good point. Although it did make a little over $180 million this weekend, so if you haven't seen it, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. It's just, you need to go do it.
All right, so Captain America Civil War picks up about a year after the events of Age of Ultron. Tony has gone into more of a desk-type role.
Diplomatic role.
Yes, I believe at one point he calls an active duty non-combatant, which
very Tony Stark.
Yes, I thought that was cool. So he's gone into a bit of a background role. Cap is now leading the team of new Avengers, and they get involved in a bit of a skirmish in Africa, and things go awry and people end up dying. As a result, the world thinks that the Avengers need to be policed a bit more and have a bit more of oversight to them. So they establish a set of legislation saying, okay, you have to report to this committee of countries. This committee says it's okay for you to go in. You can go in. If they say no, you can't.
Yeah, basically they're trying to put a leash on the Avengers.
Yes. So half of the Avengers agree with Captain America that they don't want to sign this bill or this act. And the other half agree with Tony Stark, saying that they absolutely need oversight. They're just too powerful. If one of them has a bad day, the entire world could have a bad day. So then the background image of this is also the events that took place during Winter Soldier with Steve Rogers, Chris Evans, Captain America's best friend, Bucky Barnes, played by Sebastian Stan, who has been on the run from Cap and everybody else up until this point, and now has been framed for the assassination of the Wakandan king, who is just so happens to be the Black Panther's father. Sounds way more complicated than it is. They did a wonderful job of streamlining the whole process. By the very end, you get why everybody was doing everything, why so-and-so was on each side, and they really painted a great picture.
Yeah, you didn't have to think about much. Everything was explained very quickly. Nothing really dragged out except for the main plot. Zemo's character and his storyline.
Yes, who was a fairly big departure from the comics. I know you're not a huge comic guy, but in the paper world, he wears this bright purple costume that's been fused to his face and things like that, and he's still kind of a badass in the comic world, but nothing like they portrayed him on screen. So I really like that departure, actually. Like,
Plays better for a movie.
It does, yeah. Like, it's tough to get this dude's wearing a purple sock on his face over with the majority of non-comic book fans.
Yeah, and he was played by a terrific actor, Daniel Bruhl.
Yes, very good. Okay, so let's get into our positives. What are some of your positives, Jim?
How they tied in all the new characters.
Yes, they introduced several new characters.
Spider-Man.
Black Panther, who I previously mentioned, yes. They brought Ant-Man into the fold.
Yeah, they brought Ant-Man. More with Vision, Paul Bettany's character.
And Scarlet Witch got a sizable uptick in screen time.
Yep, and so did Sebastian Stan. He's also still up there after Winter Soldier. That could also be a negative for me.
Could be.
I feel like they're sort of dragging the Bucky Barnes storyline out a little bit too much. But I get it. It had to tie with Tony Stark, parents, and everything. I didn't really want to say it, but...
I also thought that was very impressive. That's one of my biggest highlights, the fact that with so many superheroes in this film, and literally every superhero in the Marvel Universe, short of Thor, Hulk, and the Guardians of the Galaxy, are in this movie.
Yeah.
So we're talking about, 10 characters roughly, right around there, and none of them felt forced. They all played their role. Some of them had fairly large parts. Some of them were a bit smaller, but they fit so well into the overall story that nobody felt like, okay, they're really trying to get you to like Spider-Man, or wow, they really used way too little Jeremy Renner. No, I thought it was perfect.
Yeah, they did a very nice job of picking people that need to have a larger part, and they didn't overuse anyone. At least I don't think.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. That'll transition right into mine. Spider-Man. I thought probably the best Spider-Man we've ever seen on camera.
Yep.
I thought Tom Holland, I was a little nervous about his casting to begin with, but that's all gone away. I think he's going to nail this role. I love the age.
Yeah, I love that he's younger.
Yeah.
It makes for some funny writing.
Yeah. And then I like the way they even wrote him, like they live in that apartment building type kind of lower level, not quite projects, but pretty close enough to what you would think. Like, it's not like the other Spider-Man movies where they have a house out in basically the suburbs of Queens. He is in the middle of the city. You can really feel all right, so he's kind of poor. And the other ones, they try to get the image that he was poor across, but I mean, for the most part, they had a decent house. They had fairly nice stuff, but in this one, it's they're kind of poor.
Yeah, I mean, you could see his computer on his desk that he has, and then he picks up a VCR out of the garbage or DVD player or something.
Iron Man literally makes fun of him at one point for being a garbage picker.
Yeah.
Or dumpster diver, yeah. So, for me, Spider-Man was great. I would have preferred him to be a bit more quippy. He's a little bit more just observant in how his humor is done. It's more like, oh, hey, you're Captain America. That's awesome. Or hey, you guys ever see Empire Strikes Back? That really old movie?
Really old Star Wars movie?
Yeah. So that was funny. But and I think it'll come when he has his own movie. I think they'll definitely bring in that little bit more of sarcasm. But what they showed, I really liked.
Yeah. They were just pretty much showing him in shock for seeing all these Avengers superheroes that he probably loves and was always interested in. Mm-hmm. Even more so after that, now he's Spider-Man.
Yeah, you have any more positive?
The fight scenes.
Yeah, the choreography was great.
All the fight scenes were awesome.
I have one that I didn't particularly like, but it's a bit nitpicky.
Which one?
I did not like Scarlett Johansson / Black Widow's first fight scene. It was extremely shaky cam.
Yeah, you never saw her face either.
No. I mean, it was clearly a stunt double. It's possible. Maybe they shot the stuff early. Was she recently pregnant again? I can't remember.
I think she may have been.
Yeah, so it might have cut off some of hers, but it was everywhere.
Yeah.
And to their credit, they calmed it down significantly after that. So
yeah, they might have just been doing it because she was pregnant.
Yeah.
All of Captain America, Iron Man.
Yeah, it was
Bucky's
really well done.
Really cool.
Yeah. You know what they didn't do in this movie, which I applaud, and maybe it's just because now that most of these actors are, okay, Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. Iron Man is Tony Stark. Chris Evans is Captain America. There wasn't as many of those like, oh, hey, my helmet just got tore off so you can see my real face.
Yeah.
Like that they always do in superhero movies because agents are like, you can't cover up my guy's face for 2/3 of this movie. Like, he's got to have this many shots of his real face. Like, there was almost none of that in this film.
Yeah, I think at this point, the public knows who all the Avengers are, and I'm completely okay with it.
Yeah, so was I. I thought it was really well done. Like, it felt, you hesitate to say more real, but it felt
Not
more
as forced.
Yes, more in place with this universe. Another one of my positives, the chemistry between 99% of the people on screen jumped off of it.
Yeah.
It was super impressive. Especially between Bucky, Sebastian Stan, and Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson.
Yep.
They don't have a lot of screen time together, but when they are, it was pure magic.
Yeah, they're quick one-liners. I mean, they're not much, and they did well. It was really funny.
Yeah, the two scenes that really stand out, when they're both sitting in the little Volkswagen Beetle and
the getaway car.
Yes, and Anthony Mackie's in the back seat. He's like, or no, Sebastian Stan's in the back seat. He's like, "Can you move your seat up?" No. And then, like the next scene, you see him slightly move over.
Yep. Or then when rushed, unneeded kiss between Emily Van Camp, Sharon Carter, and Chris Evans, Steven Rogers wasn't necessary, but they had it in there anyway. When they were laughing when Steve Rogers turned around and looked at him.
Yeah, the chemistry between those three characters is really nice, and I especially like the building that they did with that. And then like the back and forth between Evans and Downey Jr. was great. I mean, they've been great for 3 movies in a row now, but just it would taken up to that next level. And then I loved Tony Stark with Peter Parker, and
they were terrific.
Yeah, they were really great, and
even Anthony Mackie and Tom Holland, Spider-Man, and Sam Wilson were good together too.
Yes, yeah, that was one of the best fight scenes. I thought like that was where Spider-Man's quips really came into their own. And that was really you couldn't have done that earlier. I hate you.
Yep.
That was one of my favorite lines from the movie between the Winter Soldier and Falcon. So that was really good. I love the chemistry on scene.
Sam Wilson's perfect for that humor. And then of course we didn't even talk about Ant-Man.
Yeah, no,
that's
Paul
all
Rudd
he was
great.
humor.
He like he didn't have a serious line in the movie. I mean, granted, he's only in it for 5 minutes, but I mean, everything from just wanting to get orange slices afterwards, like it's some soccer game between two like 12-year-old teams, or him talking about like ripping himself in half when he tries to go Giant Man, and I'm like, oh, they brought Giant Man in. You're not a comic book nerd, so I don't expect you to freak out as much as but like I had heard rumblings. I don't even want to call them rumors because none of like my trusted sources were like, they're definitely bringing Giant Man in. But if it was wonderful, because that's where Ant-Man I think really has a chance to shine, because when he gets minimized or goes super small, it's cool for a second, but for the most part you're like, all right, this is kind of unfair. Like, either he's too strong, or it's just not as visually appealing. Like in the Ant-Man movie, it worked really well, but in this larger scene, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, he's gonna get lost, pun intended, in everything. But when you make him the Giant Man, instantly that ups his factor, where it's like, okay, he's gonna be a major part of fights to come. Yeah,
it was very cool. It was funny while he was doing it because he looked all out of sorts and weird, and he got super excited when it actually worked. That was good.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about some of the negatives.
I feel like either Bucky Barnes or Rhodey should have died. One or the other. Not both, but one of them.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Like, and we talked about this after the movie. I understand why nobody did, because you've got Infinity War coming up, and if nobody dies in either one of those movies, then I think you could see the audience start to turn on these kind of movies because, like, there's no stakes at that point. Like,
Yep.
So I think somebody has to die in one of those films.
I think Marvel's afraid to lose out on a character.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes sense. Like,
I completely get it.
if you kill off Winter Soldier, you can't have a spin-off Winter Soldier movie.
Yeah, that, and then you lose some of the humor that you had with Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes.
Yeah, so I think this movie would have been better off if one of them died. Particularly for me, I would have preferred Bucky die off. I think it would have been better for Chris Evans, Captain America. Don Cheadle's Rhodes is he was in this movie for what, like 5 minutes maybe?
Not much.
Yeah,
I mean, I noticed a lot of the fight scenes, they didn't even show him under his helmet.
Mm-hmm.
They just didn't even bother, and he just had voiceover.
Yeah, so that makes sense. He's probably one of the cheaper guys on set at this point, so...
Yeah.
But yeah, it would have been a more impact if they would have killed somebody off, but at the same time, like, it is still a Marvel movie. There is an element of this for children. I get it. You mentioned it earlier. The chemistry / forced love story between Sharon Carter and Captain America, Emily Van Camp, and...
Chris Evans.
Yes. Could have came in a little quicker on that.
I wasn't sure where you were going.
So... that I didn't think it was necessary.
It's also weird that she's like her, what's her, Peggy's?
Yeah, Peggy Carter's niece?
Yeah, great niece or something.
Yeah, so...
it's a little creepy.
Yeah, it's one of those things like, hey, I really loved your aunt. Like, I was going to lose my virginity to her. Because I don't know if you realize this. Captain America's a virgin. Captain America, up until, like, Black Widow, hadn't even kissed another girl. For the record. One of those creepy aspects of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that you're like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah,
like,
we try to forget about that.
Yeah, you think about it a little too much, it gets weird. So, yeah, that was definitely an odd choice to be like, yeah, but now I totally like I was waiting for you to die so I can move in on your great niece. Their kiss was awkward, as you previously stated. And overall, I didn't think it was necessary. Their love story didn't add anything to this film for me.
No.
It truthfully, you cut out 5 minutes of this movie, it probably gets even better.
It could have just been, I mean, they could have left it as just a friendship. I mean, they were close because Captain America knew her aunt and that kind of thing and just left it at that.
Yeah, not, like, just don't force it in this movie. Like, I'm okay with the love story in general, but bring her back for the next Captain America or... have some other, where this story was already packed to the gills with stuff you wanted to know. And I wanted to know more about Iron Man's story. I wanted to know about more of the love story that they were budding between Vision and Scarlet Witch. And like, I could have used a little bit more of that, and it just wasn't necessary.
Yep.
How about another one of your negatives?
Scarlet Witch's accent.
How it went in and out, kind of?
Yeah, it was all over the place. I wish they'd just stick with one way or the other.
Yeah,
It'd be better if they just didn't even have it.
Yeah. I feel that that's the way they're going. Because they definitely, they were trying to eliminate it for the most part in this movie. Like, she totally has accepted the Native American-esque accent. I thought it was way better than Age of Ultron. In Age of Ultron, every
terrible.
scene, she's like, I'm going to kill bull and squirrel.
Yeah, it was really bad.
Yeah, so... I like that a little bit better. Plus, I mean, it's Elizabeth Olsen. I think she's a good actress. I think slowly but surely she's fitting into this blockbuster role. I don't think it was natural for her at first.
Yeah, it was probably tough.
Yeah. One of my negatives, this one might be a little controversial, but Aunt May is too hot.
See, that's a positive for me.
See, this would be a good argument then. Because for those of you who are unaware... Marissa Tomei, the gorgeous 52-year-old actress, I believe, has been cast as sweet old Aunt May. Someone who in past films has been played by Sally Field, and before that, Rosemary Harris, who was in her 70s during filming. So every iteration, they're getting younger and younger. Like, if this gets rebooted more than 2 times in the next 10 years, we're going to get like a 20-year-old Aunt May. Like, oh, younger sister got knocked up way early.
She got knocked up in high school.
Yeah, so, but she's just so stunning. And literally, Iron Man talks about it. He's like, yeah, no, she shouldn't be somebody's aunt. Like, you're way too attractive to be somebody's aunt. And,
well, let me ask you this. It is his aunt, right?
it appears that, yes, it's a legit aunt. And the age range works. I'm not saying that. Like,
I was a little confused on it. That's why I was just asking.
Because, I mean, I think in traditional Spider-Man lore, Aunt May and Uncle Ben, I think they're more great Aunt May and great Uncle Ben, because they've always been portrayed as elderly. Mm-hmm. Even in the comics, when Spider-Man was a high schooler, Aunt May was still gray-haired. Like that, or like she went gray really young.
Yeah.
So, in this situation, the timeline fits. It's just Marissa Tomei is so attractive that I really struggle with the idea. Like when she came on screen, it distracted me from the entire movie. I was like, nope, can't do it.
I'm okay with her being so hot because there's so many guys in this film. They need more women. Scarlet Witch and Black Widow.
Yes, it's a very colored animal theme. Black Widow and Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, there needs to be more women.
Yeah, I mean, they will in the future. Like there's Gamora from Guardians of the Galaxy, and also it's not like you're not going to see Aunt May suiting up and like going to fight crime.
No, but it's just another element where I'm not looking at another dude.
Yeah, I suppose. As far as other negatives, I gotta be honest with you. I really struggled to find many. It's a really well done film.
Didn't feel long at all.
No,
it was like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it's actually the longest Marvel film ever, I think.
Yeah,
and like just under 2.5, like 2:26.
You'd expect that with as many characters as they're bringing in.
Mm-hmm. I thought Tony did a great job. Robert Downey Jr. is the emotion he was able to bring out, and just like these little looks, I thought was great.
Yeah, you really got to see how good of an actor Robert Downey is.
There was nothing wrong with Chris Evans' performance. I don't think it was particularly great. But then again, Captain America, he's a fairly wooden character. Yeah, it's tough for him to get. Yeah, like he never gets too high, he never gets too low, and he's on that straight path. Whereas, like, this is what I believe, and I'm always confident in what I believe. My faith is never shaken. Yeah. So it's tough to do for that. But let's screw it. We'll just go back to the positive, because I have a couple more. I think you have a couple more.
Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther.
Yeah. I was a little nervous about his casting coming off of that awful accented Gods of Egypt character he played. So I was like, oh, he's going to be playing African King. He's totally going to use an accent, because you can't play Black Panther without an accent, and it's going to be horrible. I thought his accent was great.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, I thought it fit really well, and he gave a couple of really chilling line reads.
Yeah, like, at the end was very good when he was talking to Zemo.
Yeah, and even before you see him as Black Panther, like right after his father dies, and he's talking to Black Widow, and he's like, I'll kill him myself. Like, it just walks off, and it's like, oh, he's gonna do it.
Yep. And then how at the end of the credits, they set up the Black Panther movie. Yep, that's coming out next year.
Directed by one of my new favorites, and I'm pretty sure Jim's a big fan of it too. Ryan Coogler will be directing that.
Yep. Yeah, I'm very excited for that film.
This one, my next positive is also possibly a bit controversial. Marvel is not, especially the cinematic universe, not known for their villains. They, for the majority, have been weak. Like, Loki has been good, and he's been great, but he's practically to that point where he's overused now.
Yeah, you can't keep using him.
Yeah, he's used in every Thor movie. He was used in one Avengers film, and he had cameos in a couple others for like end credit stuff. So, and then you have Red Skull, who got taken out after one movie, and then both Thor villains, aside from Loki, have been weak and things like that. And Ant-Man, it's usually like, okay, in Marvel films, you just fight your opposite. Ant-Man fights another small guy who's evil. Captain America fights a Red Skull who is basically Captain America but evil. Iron Man fights another guy in an Iron Man suit. So Zemo, played by Daniel Bruhl, I thought was great. For the majority of the film, he felt a little underwhelming. You're like, oh, I want more villainy from the guy. But in that final scene, or that third act, I don't want to ruin it completely for people who haven't seen it, but you find out his reasoning behind it, and instantly he goes from like a 5 or 6 villain for me to probably around an 8 or a 9. I thought his entire story was great. His plot, and it wasn't like, I'm going to destroy the world. It was very concise, and it worked, essentially.
Yeah, they didn't. They did a nice job of giving you little pieces at a time of more and more of why he's doing what he's doing, and then at the end they hit you with the big one, which is, I'm not going to say, you'll find out when you see it, but it plays very well.
Yes, he's trying to crumble an empire, but it is not the empire you're thinking the entire time.
Yep.
So, all right, we've gushed about this movie enough. Like I said earlier, let us know what you guys thought about the film. You can check us out on Twitter at IHB Podcast or on Facebook, the I've Had Better podcast page. Jim, give us your rating for Captain America Civil War.
I struggled with the number a little bit because I want to give it the same, if not a little bit better, as I did for Deadpool. So I'm just going to keep it the same, and I'm going to go with a 9 out of 10. Because
which one's better?
I don't want to decide because they're two different types of movies.
We live in a decisive world, James. I want to know right now. I put out my weekly list. I put myself out there on the edge. How would you do the same?
I don't like to. I want to be the safe bet on this podcast. Maybe Civil War's a little bit better.
Yeah.
Like half a point. Just because I enjoy the Marvel characters a lot better.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they have a lot more to play with.
Yeah, they've got definitely a lot more money.
Yeah.
A lot more characters, a lot more directions they can go. But for Deadpool, it's Deadpool's still pretty high for me.
Yeah, I can't argue with you. My number is very similar. I went with a 9.1 out of 10 apples.
To beat out Deadpool.
It did. It actually, because Deadpool was my number 2 film of this year. We disagreed on my number 1. I went number 10, Cloverfield Lane. Both of those films I gave a 9. Civil War I gave a 9.1. Not in an attempt to beat out Deadpool and 10 Cloverfield Lane. It was actually in response to the other Marvel movies that I ranked in my head. For me, the best Marvel movie of all time is The Avengers. I give that one like a 9.7. Yeah.
Very high.
Yeah, for the record, the greatest comic book movie of all time, The Dark Knight, is a 10. So, it's about the 0.3 away from The Dark Knight. Then my second favorite Marvel movie of all time is Iron Man 1. I give that a 9.3.
Okay.
So, and I don't think, for me personally, this beats out Iron Man 1. Because Iron Man 1 just has so many elements that I love. Like, it has training scenes.
I was just going to say that. Yeah. It's the training scenes that topped it.
Yeah, like, I love training scenes. It has a decent villain, like, not maybe character-wise, but actor ability-wise in Jeff Bridges, Obadiah Stane. It uses Pepper probably the best she's ever been used in the Marvel universe.
I think she was best used in Civil War.
As in not at all.
Exactly.
I'm not going to argue with you on that. Like, that's a very good point. And probably another reason why this movie was so good.
Yeah.
But it's really close, but that one just gets a little bit of an uptick for me. Plus, the fact that it was first and it knocked it so far out of the park on, like, literally its first try. So, that was amazing. And that brings me to my score for this film, which is a 9.1. Really great. There's not a whole lot you can nitpick away from it, but at the same time, like, there are certain elements you could change. Not that it would make the film that much better, but more personal preference type stuff.
Yeah, if you're nitpicking.
Exactly. Next up, we have the box office battle. A competition for bragging rights between friends who want nothing more than to prove they know more than the other guy. And, of course, who buys the first round of drinks. Or I guess in Jimmy's case, who buys the cover for the bar we went to. That works too.
You're welcome.
How the game works is each week my co-host and I will predict the top 5 films at the box office. And whoever gets closest to the correct order wins the point for the week. James, why don't you tell us how last week's results went?
All right. The results for last week's box office are as follows. Debuting in first place with an impressive $181.7 million was the Marvel masterpiece Captain America Civil War, obviously, and earning a global box office of $675.8 million after 2 weeks of release. Holy crap. In second place was another Disney box office smash. The Jungle Book rakes in another $21.8 million. Third place, what you can only be described as the blatant film exploitation, goes to Mother's Day, making more money in its second week than it did in its debut, with $9 million, of course, because it was Mother's Day.
Mm-hmm.
In the number 4 spot, The Huntsman Winter's War, earning $3.5 million, and rounding out the top 5, in what can only be described as a gut punch to the Key and Peele, was Keanu, dropping off nearly 70% and only earning $3 million. Ouch.
Yep.
Dominator, go ahead and tell us who won by a tiebreaker.
Yeah, the tiebreaker of him being super conservative and having no faith in Captain America, apparently.
I wasn't too far off.
You win $175 million, which was a good number, and I decided to go faithful, and I went 193. In all honesty, I think Marvel might actually be a little disappointed in their 181, if that's even possible to be disappointed in the 5th all-time highest opening for a movie.
They might be.
Yeah, but James did win.
Thank you.
We each got the first 2 numbers, first 2 in the box office order correct, and then I put my faith in that damn cat, and it completely boned me. So, and then James, for some reason, thought that nobody was going to go see the insanely racist Mother's Day movie. So
I forgot.
It was a weird week. Fairly low box office if you take out Captain America, which is to be expected. But yeah, like I was saying before, Marvel's probably a little bit disappointed. I heard a lot of people saying they thought they were going to do over $200 million in the opening week, which
that's a lot of money.
Yeah, and you have to wonder if maybe a little bit of fatigue is setting in with comic books.
Possibly.
Yeah.
No one's died. Nothing really changes. I mean, each one kind of just brings in new characters.
A little bit, yeah.
And that's kind of the intrigue to see each one. Mm-hmm. I think, at least.
Yeah. No, I went to this movie less for wanting to see Captain America fight Iron Man.
Yeah, because no one really wants to see that.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, people want to see it. I wanted to see it, but it wasn't my driving factor. And plus, we've seen it a little bit in the past. Like, in Avengers 1, you got a snippet of it.
Yeah. Everyone's arguing and fighting, and they disagree on a lot of things.
Yeah. But I wanted to see Spider-Man. I wanted to see Black Panther. I wanted to see Ant-Man in that world. I was looking forward to seeing the Vision in this world again. Mm-hmm. So those were what my main draws are. So and then just for me to go down the line a little bit, Jungle Book pulling in another $21 million. That's an impressive number considering going up against another film like Captain America.
Yeah. How about Disney crushing it?
Yeah. I mean,
it's insane how much money they make.
Mm-hmm, it really is. I don't think they're on pace to beat Universal from last year, but
well, they had a crazy year too.
Yeah, it also depends. As long as Force Awakens counts towards last year's numbers, then I don't think they have a chance. But if you count Force Awakens and Disney's numbers this year, it's going to be really close.
Yeah, because
they had Zootopia, which is going to get close to, not going to make $1 billion, but it's $950 something right now, so it's going to get close.
It's at $328 domestically right now.
Yeah, it had Force Awakens, it had Jungle Book, it had this, it's got still Doctor Strange to come. So Disney's going to really put that Universal number from last year to the test. So $21.8 million, pretty good counter programming against Civil War. Third place, I talked about it last week, and it only made $9 million because it's Mother's Day weekend, and every kid I know, like, oh, let's go see this one with my mom. Even though, and everybody I've talked to has said it's horrible, so let's leave that one for what it was. I fully expect that to drop off to like 20% or like a little over $2 million next week. Number 4, The Huntsman. Again, a disappointing number for them, probably.
Yeah, they're not happy.
At only 3.5. And finally, Key and Peele. That 70% is going to hurt. And granted, this movie was super low budget comparatively. I think it was only made for like 15 or 10 or so, but they had to pump in at least $30 million worth of marketing in it, so it's going to struggle to make its money back. Just a couple of notes that weren't included in the read, but we might find interesting. As I said, Zootopia passed $950 million this past week. Probably not going to hit that Billy mark, but still very impressive. Captain America, as I said earlier, 5th biggest opening of all time, and internationally has already made more money Then Iron Man 1, Thor 1, Iron Man 2, the first Captain America, Ant-Man, Thor 2, Guardians, and Winter Soldier in only 2 weeks of international release. So that's pretty insane. And finally, the most disappointing note is Batman vs. Superman made just over $1 million this past week, meaning that it's essentially done at the box office. They're not going to add much more, and it'll probably ending at like $880 million globally. So, yeah.
Tough for DC.
A little bit.
Real kick in the nuts.
All right, so let's go on to our picks for next week. Oh, Enchanted One, how would you go first?
Thank you. I appreciate the intro.
Yeah, no problem.
Dominator and I did not discuss our picks either at a time.
Nope, this one is going... Jimmy had to do it all by himself this week.
Yeah, I did. Obviously won Captain America Civil War, and I still think Jungle Book is going to hold out for number 2.
You think so?
Yep. I think it's got potential, and I'm taking a huge risk on this, but I'm banking on Julia Roberts. Not George Clooney, Julia Roberts. Because Julia Roberts doesn't do too much anymore. So I think there could be potential that Moneymaker will get number 3. And then the Kevin Bacon horror film that shouldn't be made, but it is going to be made, The Darkness at 4. And then, unfortunately, I know you don't want to hear this, but Mother's Day at 5.
You think so?
I think it's still possible for it to squeak in there.
Yeah, it certainly is tough to argue. I do have the same list as you.
Same exact list?
Yeah, same exact list.
No shit.
For the sake of our argument, though, and for competition, I'm going to switch Money Monster and Jungle Book.
So 3-2.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have a ton of faith in this, but I'm just crossing my fingers that George Clooney and Julia Roberts can pull in like 17. Because if they pull in 17, you have to assume Jungle Book's not getting 17.
Yeah.
Like, I think Jungle Book... I do think Jungle Book's going to do a good number, but I think a good number would be like 15, which is 20% drop-off, roughly, a little more than 20%. Like, that's close to 30, which would be really impressive, but the last couple weeks it's done 44 and 45 and so stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm going to go Civil War number 1, Money Monster number 2, Jungle Book 3.
It's indecisive look on your faces.
Yeah, because I don't think The Darkness is going to do well.
It's scaring me.
And like it's only in 1,500 or so theaters. So you got to. I mean, you got to... Oh, no.
It's a horror film in May.
Yeah.
It's not like it's February where sometimes you're hit or miss on those.
Yeah, I'm not going to gamble on anything else. That is enough of a gamble for me at 2 and 3. So I'm going to go to The Darkness number 4, and I'm going to round it out with Mother's Day. All right, so you guys heard what our picks were. Let us know what your picks are. You can either send us an email to ihbpodcast@gmail.com, contact us on Twitter, which we'll give you in a second, or even on Facebook. Or, just shout it out on the streets if you happen to see us. It's fairly rare, considering only like 300 people like the Facebook page, but it's possible you could run into us. Jimmy's got slick back Greek hair. It just flows in the wind, and it looks like it's been drenched in olive oil, so just look out for that guy. All right, I want to thank you all for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed the show, and like this episode and subscribe to the I've Had Better Podcast Network. Also, you can follow us on Twitter at IHB Podcast, and on Facebook, go like the I've Had Better Podcast page. James, tell the people how to find you.
I'm on Twitter at _Kaiser_Soze, or on Facebook at Jimmy Langos, which I don't get much love there either.
Well, it would also help if you did anything besides just sharing something. Like, maybe throw out a hashtag IHB movies every once in a while.
Maybe I will.
Trust me, because I've been searching the IHB movies. It's a whole lot of Dominic and a whole lot of IHB podcasts throwing that out there.
Yeah, I'm not a creative person, if you haven't noticed. And don't forget to check out the website, www.ihbpodcast.com, and don't forget to check out the iTunes page.
Yep, and you can find that by simply going onto iTunes and searching I've Had Better Podcasts, and it'll pop right up for you. You can see all of our last 7 episodes, I believe, on there, and we'll have more for you very soon. And as always, I am Dominic Demore. You can follow me on Twitter at Dom Demore. That's DOMDEMORE. Or on Facebook at Dominic Demore. How was your show today, James?
I've had better.
Good night, everybody.